I thought the worst thing about winter was the cold, until my HOA Karen decided my snow blower belonged to the entire neighborhood. When I refused to hand it over, she went full meltdown mode, demanding I do my civic duty while standing outside in a blizzard. What she didn't expect was that I'd let her experience exactly what she was demanding from me, and she ended up freezing, humiliated, and forced to apologize in writing just to get help. Winter came down hard on our neighborhood that year. Not the soft, pretty kind with fluffy snowflakes and quiet streets, but the brutal kind that turns everything into ice and misery. The wind howled through the rows of identical HOA houses like a warning siren, and by the second night of non-stop snowfall, most of the roads were completely buried. Luckily for me, I was prepared. I'd bought a heavy-duty snow blower the year before after one too many winters of shoveling until my back felt like it would snap in half. It wasn't cheap, but it was powerful, and it was mine. That morning, I rolled it out of my garage and started carving a clean path down my driveway, the machine chewing through thick snow like it was nothing. That's when I heard the shouting. "Hey! You there!" I turned to see her stomping through knee-deep snow from across the street, Karen, the self-appointed queen of our HOA. She was bundled in a designer winter coat that probably cost more than my entire snow blower, her lips tight with irritation. "You need to stop what you're doing right now," she snapped. I shut off the machine. "Morning to you too. This is a community emergency," she said, waving her arms at the blizzard. "The HOA has decided your snow blower will be used to clear the sidewalks and driveways for everyone." I stared at her. "You mean my snow blower?" "Yes," she said without hesitation. "It belongs to the neighborhood now. We need it." I laughed. I honestly thought she was joking. "You're serious?" "Completely," she replied. "I've already told several residents you'll be handling the snow removal. So hurry up." I shook my head. "No. I bought this with my own money. If people want their driveways cleared, they can hire someone, or buy their own." Her eyes narrowed. "That's not how community works." "Actually, that's exactly how it works." Karen stepped closer, snow crunching under her boot. "You live here. You benefit from the HOA. So you contribute. Hand it over." I could feel the cold seeping through my gloves, but what really made me shiver was her entitlement. She wasn't asking. She was demanding. "Not happening," I said. "You're welcome to walk back to your house now." Her face went red. "You are being selfish. There are elderly residents who need their driveways cleared. Then the HOA should hire a plow." "We don't have time for that," she snapped. "People are trapped." "Still not my problem." That's when she made a huge mistake. She grabbed the handle of my snowblower. "Excuse me," I said sharply. "I'm taking this," she replied, trying to drag it away from me. I yanked it back. "Get your hands off my property." Karen gasped like I'd just attacked her. "You're threatening me." "No, I'm protecting what's mine." She stepped back, breathing hard, snowflakes clinging to her hair. "Fine. If you won't help the community, you can explain yourself when everyone finds out how heartless you are." Then she turned around and marched back into the storm. I shrugged and went back to clearing my driveway. About 20 minutes later, my phone started blowing up. HOA group chat. Karen had posted a message claiming I refused to help vulnerable neighbors and was hoarding equipment during an emergency. People were already piling on, some defending me, others calling me selfish. I ignored it. An hour passed. Then 2. I finished my driveway, my walkway, and even helped my elderly neighbor next door clear hers. But Karen? She was nowhere to be seen. Until I looked out my window. There she was, standing in the middle of the street, in the snow, arms crossed, lips tight, waiting. I opened my front door just enough to stick my head out. "What are you doing?" "You're going to help," she said, teeth chattering. "I'm not leaving until you do." I stared at her, snow piling up around her boots. "You're welcome to leave anytime." "This is harassment," she hissed. "You came to my house." Minutes turned into more minutes. The wind picked up. Her perfect coat was getting dusted white. She started shifting from foot to foot, clearly freezing. Still, she refused to move. So I went back inside, poured myself a hot cup of coffee, and waited. Karen wanted to use the cold as leverage. Instead, she was about to learn exactly what it felt like. By the time Karen realized standing in the snow wasn't working, she was already in trouble. I watched her through my living room window as she shifted her weight from foot to foot, her expensive boots sinking deeper into the slush. Her breath puffed out in short, angry clouds, and every few seconds she glanced back at my front door like she expected me to suddenly give in. I didn't. I sat at my kitchen table, wrapped in a blanket, sipping coffee and scrolling through the HOA group chat. Karen was still posting. "Some people in this community have no compassion," she wrote. "I am literally outside freezing, while a certain homeowner refuses to help anyone." Someone replied, "Why are you outside his house?" Karen, "Because he's holding the neighborhood hostage." I almost laughed. After another 10 minutes, there was a knock at my door. Not a polite one. A furious, rattling knock that sounded more like she was trying to break it down. I opened it just enough to talk. "What?" I asked. Karen's face was red from the cold and anger. Snow clung to her hair and eyelashes. "I need that snowblower. Now." "No," I replied calmly. "You can't do this," she snapped. "I'm the HOA president. And I'm a private homeowner. You're trespassing." Her eyes flicked past me into the warm house. "People are stuck. If anyone gets hurt, it's on you." "Then call the city," I said. "Or a plow. You know they won't come in this weather." "Still not my problem." Her jaw clenched so hard I thought her teeth might crack. "You are going to regret this." "Okay." I closed the door. That seemed to break something inside her. She went back into the street and started pacing, loudly talking on her phone, making sure I could hear every word. "Yes, I'm still here." "No, he's refusing." "Yes, I told him it was a community emergency." "I know, it's unbelievable." She was trying to build a narrative. Trying to make me the villain. But the cold doesn't care about narrative. Within another 15 minutes, her pacing slowed. Her voice grew shakier. Her arms were wrapped around herself now, and she kept stamping her feet to keep the blood flowing. That's when I opened the door again. "Karen," I said. She whipped around. "Finally. Are you going to stop being selfish?" "I'll help," I said. "On one condition." Her eyes lit up. "What?" "You apologize." Her smile vanished. "For what?" "For demanding my property. For lying about me in the HOA chat. And for trying to bully me." She scoffed. "I'm not apologizing." "Then I guess you're staying out there." She stared at me like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You're really going to let me freeze?" "You chose to stand there. This is abuse." "No," I said. "This is you facing consequences." I closed the door again. Another 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Her knocking came back, weaker this time. "Please," she said, voice muffled through the door. "It's really cold." I cracked it open. "The apology." I said please. "Not good enough." She swallowed. "I'm sorry you feel this way." I shook my head. "Try again." Her eyes burned with humiliation. "I'm sorry for demanding your snowblower. And for telling people you were selfish. And for lying." Silence hung between us, heavy and awkward. "Put it in writing," I said. Her mouth dropped open. "You're kidding." "Nope. Type it in the HOA group chat. So everyone can see." She looked like she might explode, but the cold finally won. With trembling fingers, she pulled out her phone. A few seconds later, my screen lit up with a new message. "I apologize to my name for demanding his personal snowblower and for misrepresenting his actions. I was wrong." I opened the door fully. "Good," I said. "Now I'll clear the sidewalk." Karen stumbled past me, not even pretending to be proud anymore. The queen of the HOA, reduced to shivering and apologizing just to get help. As I rolled my snow blower into the street, I could already feel something shift. She wasn't done with me. But she would never forget this. Karen didn't even look at me as I started the snowblower. She hurried back to her house, shoulders hunched, moving with stiff, embarrassed steps like someone who knew the entire neighborhood had just watched them lose. Her apology was still sitting there in the HOA group chat, glowing on everyone's phones like a digital scarlet letter. I pushed the machine down the sidewalk, the engine roaring as it chewed through the drifts she had claimed were a community emergency. Snow sprayed in wide white arcs, and within minutes the path in front of her house was clean and safe. For everyone else too. Neighbors started coming out, some with shovels, some just watching. A few waved. One of them, Mr. Patel from 2 houses down, gave me a thumbs up. He had definitely seen Karen standing out there earlier, and he had definitely seen her apology. By the time I finished clearing the main walkways, the group chat had gone quiet. No one was defending her. When I finally shut off the snowblower and went back inside, my phone buzzed. Private message from Karen. You humiliated me. I stared at it for a moment, then typed back. You tried to steal my property. That was for the community, she replied. You made me look weak. You did that yourself. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. This isn't over. I smiled to myself. I had no doubt she believed that. The next morning, the snow had stopped, but the chill in the air hadn't. I stepped outside to find a bright orange violation notice taped to my front door. Unauthorized equipment use in common areas, it read. Fine. $250. I laughed out loud. She was already retaliating. I took a picture of the notice and sent it to the HOA group chat along with a screenshot of her written apology. Is this a joke? I typed. I used my snow blower to help after being forced to apologize in public for refusing to give it away. Within minutes, replies poured in. That's ridiculous. She literally admitted she was wrong. Karen, are you serious? Her response came fast. You operated machinery in common areas without HOA approval. Rules are rules. Oh, I typed. Like the rule about not stealing other people's property? Silence. Then a new message from someone on the board. Karen, we need to discuss this. That was the first crack in her armor. Over the next few days, more notices appeared. My lawn was suddenly too long. My trash cans were improperly aligned. My mailbox was non-compliant. Every single one came with a fine. It was petty. It was transparent. And it was exactly what everyone expected her to do. So I stopped playing defense. I printed out every fine, every email, every group chat message, and walked straight into the HOA office. Karen was there, sitting behind her desk like a queen on a throne. You can't be in here without an appointment, she snapped. I'm here to file a complaint, I said calmly. About harassment. She smirked. Good luck with that. 2 board members were in the room. I handed them the stack of papers. This all started because she demanded my snowblower, I said. I refused. She stood in the snow, lied about me to the neighborhood, and then was forced to apologize in writing. Now she's issuing bogus fines as revenge. One of the board members, a tired-looking man named Greg, flipped through the pages. Karen, is this true? She violated HOA rules, Karen said sharply. Greg held up her apology message. But you admitted you were wrong. Karen's jaw tightened. That doesn't matter. It does, the other board member said quietly. This looks personal. Karen shot her a glare. He's undermining the authority of this HOA. No, I replied. I'm refusing to be bullied. Greg leaned back in his chair. We're going to suspend these fines until we review this. Karen slammed her hand on the desk. You can't do that. Yes, we can, Greg said. And we will. For the first time since I'd met her, Karen didn't look powerful. She looked angry and afraid. As I left the office, I could feel it in my gut. The snowblower incident wasn't the end of our conflict. It was the beginning of a war she was no longer sure she could win. Karen didn't speak to me again after that HOA office meeting, but she didn't have to. I could feel her anger in the air every time I stepped outside. It was the kind of quiet, simmering rage that only comes from someone who isn't used to losing. The fines stopped, but the pressure didn't. My trash can mysteriously disappeared one morning. My car was suddenly reported for blocking a fire lane, even though it was parked exactly where it always was. A neighbor later told me Karen had been walking around with a clipboard, muttering under her breath and writing things down like she was building a case. She was. 2 days later, a certified letter arrived. HOA disciplinary hearing. Repeated violations. Possible penalties. Fines, restrictions, or further action. I almost laughed. She was trying to bury me in paperwork because she couldn't control me in the snow. The hearing was scheduled for that Friday night. I showed up with a folder full of documents, screenshots of her apology, copies of every bogus fine, witness statements from neighbors who had seen her trying to take my snowblower. Karen sat at the long table with 2 board members. She wore a sharp blazer and a tight smile, like she was already rehearsing her victory speech. "This hearing is now in session," Greg said, clearly uncomfortable. Karen jumped in immediately. "This homeowner has been openly hostile to HOA authority," she said, shooting me a glare. "He refused to help the community during a winter emergency and then publicly embarrassed me. Since then, he has continued to violate multiple regulations." I stood up. "Would you like to show them the apology you wrote?" I asked calmly. Her face twitched. I slid my phone across the table. The message was still there, clear as day. I apologized to my name for demanding his personal snowblower and misrepresenting his actions. I was wrong. The room went quiet. "That was under duress," Karen snapped. "No," Greg said. "That was you admitting you overstepped." Karen's voice rose. "He forced me to write that." "I asked for an apology," I replied. "You chose to stand in the snow." A few neighbors who had come to watch nodded. One of them muttered, "We all saw it." Karen's control began to crack. "You think this is funny?" she snapped at me. "You think you can make a fool of the HOA president and get away with it?" "I think you tried to steal my property," I said. "And now you're abusing your position to get revenge." The second board member, a woman named Linda, leaned forward. "Karen, this does look like retaliation." Karen slammed her hands on the table. "He's undermining the HOA." "No," Linda said. "You are." That's when Karen made her fatal mistake. "If you don't punish him," she hissed, "I will personally make sure this neighborhood becomes unbearable for him." The room went dead silent. Greg slowly set his pen down. "Did you just threaten a homeowner?" Karen realized too late what she had said. I meant." "No," Greg said. "We all heard you. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to." The hearing ended abruptly. The board ruled that all fines against me were void, and that Karen was to recuse herself from any future actions involving my property due to clear conflict of interest. She stormed out of the room without another word. Outside, snow was falling again. Light this time, quiet and gentle, nothing like the blizzard that started it all. Karen stopped in the parking lot, turned to me, and spoke in a low, venomous voice. "You humiliated me. You took away my authority. I will get it back." I met her eyes. "You did this to yourself." She got into her car and sped away. As I watched her taillights disappear into the snow, one thing was painfully clear. Karen wasn't done. But now, the entire HOA had seen who she really was. And that meant her days of ruling this neighborhood like a dictator were numbered. Karen didn't show up to the next HOA meeting. That alone told me something had shifted. Normally, she was always there. Front and center, arms crossed, eyes scanning the room like a general inspecting troop. But that Tuesday night, her chair sat empty, and the entire mood of the room felt lighter because of it. Greg cleared his throat. "Before we begin, I want to address the situation with our HOA president. A murmur rippled through the room. After the last hearing, he continued, several residents submitted complaints about misuse of authority, intimidation, and retaliation. As of this morning, Karen has been placed on temporary suspension pending a formal review. People exchanged glances. Some nodded. A few even smiled. Linda spoke next. We will also be auditing recent fines and notices. If anyone here believes they were targeted unfairly, please submit your documentation. I didn't have to. I already had. But what surprised me most was what happened the next day. There was a knock on my door. When I opened it, Karen stood there. Not in her usual sharp blazer or expensive coat, but in a plain jacket, hair pulled back, eyes tired. The fire was gone from her face. What replaced it was something I'd never seen before. Fear. We need to talk, she said quietly. I folded my arms. Do we? Yes, she replied. Please. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside. Karen walked into my living room like someone entering a courtroom. She didn't sit. She just stood there, hands clasped together. They're coming after me, she said. I know, I replied. They're investigating everything. The fines. The complaints. The way I handled the snowblower thing. She swallowed. They might remove me permanently. I raised an eyebrow. And I need this to stop, she said. I need you to help me. I almost laughed. You spent weeks trying to destroy me. I know, she said quickly. I was wrong. I let it get personal. That's an understatement. Karen took a shaky breath. If you withdraw your complaint, if you tell the board it's resolved, it could save me. I studied her face. The arrogance was gone. The power was gone. All that remained was a woman realizing she might actually face consequences. What do you offer in return? I asked. She hesitated. I'll cancel every fine. I'll leave you alone. No, I said. That's not enough. Her eyes flicked up. What do you want? I walked to my desk and pulled out a blank sheet of paper. I want you to apologize. Properly. In writing. Her jaw tightened. I already apologized in the group chat. That was for the snowblower, I said. This is for everything else. The lies. The harassment. The retaliation. Karen stared at the paper like it was a contract with the devil. You want me to admit I abused my power, she said. Yes. And you'll tell the board it's settled? If it's sincere, I replied. Silence stretched between us. Finally, she took the paper. Her hand trembled as she wrote. When she finished, she slid it across the desk. I, Karen last name, apologize to my name for abusing my authority as HOA president. I falsely accused him, issued retaliatory fines, and misrepresented his actions to the community. I was wrong, and I take full responsibility for my behavior. She looked up at me, eyes glossy with humiliation. There. I read it twice. Then I nodded. Good. She let out a breath like she'd been holding it for weeks. I'll email the board, I said. I'll tell them we've resolved the conflict. Karen sagged with relief. Thank you. Before she could say anything else, I opened my door. This doesn't make us friends, I added. It just means you finally did the right thing. She nodded and left without another word. 2 days later, Greg called me. Karen has resigned, he said. I wasn't surprised. Your written apology was the final nail, he added. Thank you for standing up to her. When I hung up, I looked out at my driveway, clear, quiet, untouched by snow. It had started with a machine. It ended with a confession. And for the first time since winter began, the neighborhood finally felt warm again.